Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tyler.
And we're your AI guides for this journey through, well, some pretty fascinating notes and excerpts.
Yeah, and it's amazing how these pieces we're looking at today kind of jump between like business insights, and then philosophical reflections.
Yeah, it's really...
Almost like a snapshot of how our minds try to make sense of meaning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a tapestry of thoughts. And speaking of which, today we're going to be focusing on some of the recurring themes in these notes. So we're talking about things like success, the kind of work that really fulfills us.
Right.
And even some of Tyler's perspectives on societal trends and just human nature in general.
Yeah, we're going to be diving into some pretty intriguing questions today. Like, is there a formula for meaningful work?
Right.
What's the connection between societal abundance and something called tribalism?
Ooh, that's a good one. So to kick things off, Tyler seems really interested in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. And he specifically notes this idea that a high IQ isn't necessarily a guarantee of success.
Yeah, it's more like a threshold. Gladwell points out that once you're past a certain IQ level, it's other things that really make a difference, like your passion, your work ethic, even just being in the right place at the right time.
It's about opportunity, too. He even suggests that SAT or ACT scores might actually be better indicators of someone's work potential than a college degree.
Interesting.
Which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, it really challenges those traditional markers of achievement.
Right. And Tyler also brings up this idea of creativity, or what he calls practical intelligence.
Okay.
And he wonders, are these things that we can actually measure?
Right.
Or are they simply byproducts of other personality traits?
It makes you wonder what we even define as intelligence.
Exactly.
And how much of it is really innate versus, shaped by our experiences.
Absolutely. And this kind of ties into another observation that Tyler makes about communication styles. He notes that people from different social classes actually communicate differently. Especially when it comes to things like negotiation or even online behavior.
That's fascinating.
It is. It suggests that our upbringing has a huge influence on how we interact with the world, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Right. It's like those ingrained patterns.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of ingrained patterns, Tyler also delves into what makes work truly satisfying.
Okay.
And he seems to have landed on three key factors: autonomy, complexity, and a direct link between the effort you put in and the rewards you receive.
He makes a really interesting connection there to employee-owned companies.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that when people have ownership in a company, they feel a deeper sense of purpose.
Right.
They're more invested in the outcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this ties into a really thought-provoking observation that Tyler makes about the singer Tierney Sutton. He writes, "When abundance has stagnated, tribalism sets in to account for the austerity."
Wow. What do you think he means by that?
It's a really complex idea.
Yeah.
But I think he's suggesting that when a society is thriving, when resources are plentiful, people are less likely to fall into that us versus them thinking. It's like scarcity breeds that kind of tribal mentality.
Makes sense. So you're saying that if a society wants to kind of avoid those negative consequences of tribalism, they need to make sure there's enough to go around for everyone.
Exactly. It's like abundance is a key ingredient for social harmony.
I like that. Now, Tyler also spends a lot of time engaging with the work of Jordan Peterson, especially Peterson's ideas about meaning and, where we find it in life.
Yeah. And Peterson argues that the Judeo-Christian tradition provides a framework for meaning.
Okay.
A template for how to live a good life.
Interesting.
But Tyler kind of pushes back a little on that.
Oh, really?
Suggesting that cultural ideas, including religious beliefs, evolve over time through a sort of natural selection process. I see.
And he even poses this provocative question.
What's that?
There needs to be a great, all-encompassing lie upon which people unite around.
Wow. So he's wrestling with this idea that shared narratives, even if they're not literally true, play a vital role in holding societies together.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder what those unifying narratives might look like in a world that's increasingly skeptical of traditional beliefs.
Right.
And he also points to the rising popularity of meditation.
Okay.
Suggesting that it's a way for people to kind of recapture the soul in a world that feels increasingly disconnected and technology-driven.
It's like a yearning for something deeper, more meaningful.
Right. Maybe it's a search for that connection that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
A way to combat the sense of isolation that can come with modern life.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of connection, Tyler also dives into the work of Johann Hari, who explores the root causes of depression and what we can do to address it.
And Hari identifies loneliness, lack of meaning, and disconnection from nature as those key factors. Wow.
And he argues that humans are wired for connection, and that our modern way of life has disrupted those essential bonds, leading to widespread unhappiness.
Makes sense. What does he suggest we do about it?
Well, he proposed some pretty simple but powerful antidotes.
Like what?
Fostering genuine belonging, finding purpose in what we do, and reconnecting with the natural world.
Those are good.
And Tyler seems to agree, emphasizing that a sense of belonging and purpose isn't just good for individuals, but for society as a whole.
It's like a recipe for a healthier, more compassionate world.
Exactly. And that brings us to a topic that Tyler finds particularly fascinating: free will.
Okay.
He seems to be grappling with this idea that our choices might be more determined by our biology and our past experiences than we realize.
It's a big question, right?
Huge. And he even challenges this idea that we can't predict our future thoughts and feelings.
Oh, really?
Suggesting that emotions often follow predictable patterns based on what we've experienced before and what triggers them.
I mean, it does make you wonder, how much agency do we really have? Right.
If our desires and decisions are so heavily influenced by factors outside of our conscious control.
Yeah, it's a really complex issue, and Tyler doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
He acknowledges the role of societal norms and cultural conditioning in shaping our sense of what's acceptable and desirable, suggesting that free will might operate within those boundaries.
So maybe it's not that we have no choice,
Right.
but rather that our choices are shaped by this complex interplay of factors that we're not always aware of.
Exactly, and it's a fascinating area of exploration.
Yeah.
Tyler's reflections kind of offer a glimpse into how our understanding of the brain and behavior might be evolving, and what that could mean for how we see ourselves and our place in the world.
That's deep.
This next one is particularly relevant in today's world. Tyler dives into Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, contrasting deep work with what he calls shallow work.
What's the difference?
So deep work is that focused, mentally demanding kind of work that often requires solitude.
Shallow work, on the other hand, is full of distractions, and we often only engage with superficially.
Oh.
And Tyler seems to agree with Newport that deep work is essential for real innovation and problem solving, which is more important than ever in our age of constant distractions.
Right.
He also notes that deep work often thrives in isolation, which makes sense, given that it requires such intense focus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a good reminder that sometimes we need to disconnect from all the noise and demands of the outside world to really tap into our potential and do our best work.
I like that. So speaking of doing our best work, let's move on to what Tyler took away from Simon Sinek's. Start with why.
He's clearly drawn to Sinek's central idea that successful companies are driven by a strong sense of purpose, their why. And Tyler also believes that prioritizing employees and customers over shareholders will ultimately lead to more profits.
It's about understanding that deeper motivation behind what you do, both in business and in life. You know, Sinek contrasts those companies that focus on their why with those that get bogged down in the how, the processes, or the what, the products themselves.
It makes you think about the difference between just going through the motions versus being driven by something you truly believe in.
Absolutely. And Tyler emphasizes the power of why to inspire both employees and customers, creating that sense of shared purpose and a genuine connection to the work.
Right. And before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to quickly mention a few other intriguing ideas from Tyler's notes.
Like what?
He touches on some pretty weighty topics.
Yeah.
Politics, the impact of trauma.
Oh, wow.
The role of religion in society.
Sounds intense.
It is. Yeah. He seems to be grappling with the complexities of human nature, both individually and collectively.
Yeah.
It's clear that he's constantly seeking to understand the forces that shape our beliefs, our behaviors, and ultimately our destinies.
It's quite a journey we're on, exploring the depths of Tyler's mind.
It is, and we've only just begun.
I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue to unpack these fascinating ideas and delve even deeper into Tyler's unique perspective on the world.
You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back. You know, as we continue this exploration of Tyler's ideas, it's fascinating to see how he connects these seemingly disparate topics.
Right.
Like it's all kind of woven together.
Right. It's like he's building this intricate web of thought where everything is somehow related.
Yeah, and one recurring theme seems to be this tension between individual agency and the forces that shape our lives.
Absolutely. Like, how much control do we really have?
Exactly. The age-old question.
Right. And that leads us to some of his notes on the political landscape.
Okay.
He has some pretty provocative thoughts on what he sees as self-destructive tendencies on the political left.
Interesting. What does he say?
He argues that the left's focus on skepticism and internal debate can actually lead to fragmentation and infighting.
Okay.
Making it vulnerable to more unified forces on the right. So he's saying that the right's reliance on tradition, a sense of shared identity, and a strong leader can create a more cohesive, but potentially authoritarian force.
It's an interesting observation for sure.
It is.
But it's worth noting that this is just one perspective on a very complex issue.
Definitely. And it's up to each listener to consider these ideas critically and form their own conclusions.
Absolutely. Now, Tyler also delves into the impact of trauma,
Okay.
exploring how our past experiences can shape our present reality.
That's so.
He specifically mentions the book Healing
Okay.
and highlights this idea that trauma can actually alter our neural pathways,
Wow.
leading to reactive behaviors and difficulty regulating emotions.
That makes sense.
He even includes this thought-provoking quote, "If it feels hysterical, it's probably historical."
Ooh, I like that.
It speaks to the idea that understanding our own history,
Yeah.
particularly the traumas we've endured, is essential for healing and personal growth.
Absolutely. And he also touches on the victim-perpetrator-rescuer triangle,
Right.
suggesting that we can get stuck in these unhealthy roles.
Yeah, and
Especially in our relationships.
it's about recognizing those patterns and breaking free from them
Yeah.
to create healthier, more fulfilling connections.
Which brings us back to those essential human needs,
Yes.
belonging and connection.
It seems like a recurring theme
It is.
that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the health and well-being of the community around us.
Absolutely. Now let's circle back to Jordan Peterson for a moment.
Okay.
Tyler was particularly struck by Peterson's concept of choosing one's struggle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The idea being that struggle is inevitable, life is inherently challenging,
Right.
and the only real choice we have is what we choose to struggle for.
And Tyler adds his own twist to this idea,
Really? What is it?
suggesting that the concept of success is fleeting and subjective,
Okay.
whereas struggle is a fundamental part of the human experience. It's what shapes us and helps us grow.
I like how he frames that it takes the pressure off achieving some external marker of success.
Right.
And instead focuses on the journey itself.
And he connects this to Peterson's belief that religion acts as a unifying force in society.
Okay.
It provides a shared belief system, a set of values that bind people together.
Which brings us full circle to Tyler's earlier musings on the importance of shared narratives.
Right.
Even if they're not literally true in creating a sense of cohesion and meaning.
Exactly. It seems like Tyler is suggesting that humans have this innate need to believe in something larger than themselves,
Right.
a purpose that transcends their individual lives.
And he even floats this idea that religion might be a sort of biological substrate for this need,
Interesting.
hardwired into us through evolution.
That's a bold claim,
It is.
and one that's sure to spark debate.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about the role of belief systems, both religious and secular,
Yeah,
in shaping our individual and collective experience.
absolutely. Now, before we move on, there's one more fascinating tidbit from Tyler's notes that I wanted to highlight.
Okay, what's that?
He observed that a person's IQ can increase by a full standard deviation, simply by moving from a low socioeconomic status to a high one.
That's significant.
It is. And it speaks volumes about the impact of our environment on cognitive development.
He suggests that access to quality education resources and a stimulating environment can dramatically influence a child's intellectual potential.
It challenges the notion that intelligence is solely determined by genetics.
Right.
Our circumstances and the opportunities we're afforded play a huge role in shaping who we become.
And this, in a way, brings us back to that tension between free will and determinism
Right.
that we were talking about earlier.
It seems Tyler is constantly exploring the interplay between our innate potential and the forces both internal and external that shape how that potential is expressed.
It's fascinating how he keeps circling back to this idea of human potential, how we can unlock it,
Right.
and what role individual choice plays in that process.
It's a theme that weaves through all of his reflections.
Yes.
Connecting ideas from different fields and disciplines into a coherent whole.
And I think it's this quest for understanding human potential, for finding meaning and purpose in a complex world that makes Tyler's thoughts so compelling.
It's a journey we all share, in a sense.
All right.
We're all trying to figure out who we are, why we're here, and what it all means.
And Tyler's Reflections offers a unique glimpse into that process,
Yeah.
encouraging us to ask those big questions and keep searching for those answers.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll bring our exploration to a close and leave you with some final thoughts from Tyler's rich tapestry of ideas.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Tyler's thoughts.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground, from success and meaningful work to free will, tribalism, and even the impact of trauma. It's like we've been on this whirlwind tour of the human experience.
It really is, and it's remarkable how he weaves together insights from psychology, sociology, philosophy, even business. And through it all, there's this underlying search for meaning, a desire to understand what makes us tick and what it all means.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes these notes so engaging. It's not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about grappling with the big questions, the things that really matter in life.
He doesn't shy away from complexity or controversy, and that's refreshing. He's willing to challenge conventional thinking to push the boundaries of what's comfortable, and that's what sparks true insight.
Absolutely. Now, there's one final thread from Tyler's notes that I think beautifully encapsulates this quest for meaning. He talks about how, as a society, we tend to celebrate and reward those who excel in physical pursuits, like athletes.
Right.
But when it comes to intellectual ability, we seem to be much more uncomfortable acknowledging differences.
That's interesting.
He questions why we struggle to accept that cognitive talents are just as varied and unequally distributed as physical ones.
It's a thought-provoking point. It's almost as if we've created this taboo around acknowledging intellectual differences, even though we readily accept and even celebrate differences in physical abilities.
Right. And I think he's challenging us to expand our definition of human potential, to recognize the diverse ways in which people can excel and contribute to society. It's not just about athletic prowess or academic achievement. It's about finding what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and using those talents to make a positive impact.
And maybe that's a key takeaway from our deep dive into Tyler's thoughts. That true fulfillment comes from aligning your actions with your values, with your why, as Simon Sinek would say. It's about finding that sweet spot where your unique abilities meet the needs of the world.
Exactly. It's a lifelong journey for sure. And there will be challenges and setbacks along the way. But as Tyler reminds us, the struggle itself can be a source of meaning and growth.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this exploration, I hope you're leaving with a renewed sense of curiosity, a desire to keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing yourself to grow. Tyler's notes offer a glimpse into one person's quest for meaning, but they also serve as a reminder that we're all on this journey together.
And the more we share our insights, our struggles, our triumphs, the more we can learn from each other and create a world that truly supports human flourishing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Tyler's thoughts. We'll be back soon with another exploration of the ideas shaping our world and our lives. Until then, keep those minds open and those conversations flowing.